Hey everyone, it's me, Donna. I'm using my phone's camera because my laptop camera has went kaput and it just does not work. So if you're wondering why I'm doing my videos that show, the part where I show my face on my phone's camera, that's why. I've tried quite a few different things and nothing seems to work. So yeah, so I'm just having to resort to other camera devices that I have for that. But as far as being able to show, like my using my OBS Studio or whatever to show like my screen display part of my my computer, then that that all is fine. All that stuff. It's just the camera part itself just doesn't work. Which this laptop, I've had it for quite a few years, so it's probably about ready to go anyway. So I don't know, but maybe I'll hang on to it for a while, at least until I can get a new laptop or something. Um, but anyway, so I'm making this video to talk about the CRI Genetics, and when I get through filming this part of it, I'm going to go on to the CRI Genetics page, my CRI Genetics page, and show the changes and stuff. Since I've last filmed it, I noticed changes when I logged in today, and the percentages have changed and all that. And I'm not disappointed with anything. The only thing that I would be disappointed with is them not picking up um, like more of my African, because as far as they're concerned, they've got my African lumped in with like Puerto Rican type thing. And that's fine. If it's there, it's there. If it's mixed in, if it's an admixture, I understand that. But I wish they would have picked up my other African, because even 23, as bad as they have gotten with their test results, they have picked it up and they have isolated it, and they have labeled it as Congolese, and other companies have picked it up and everything. And I don't know. I just wish they could have picked it up, but it's no big deal. But they're still showing my Native American, um, my Asian, my South Asian, I should say East Asian and South Asian, and of course different parts of Europe. My British, and then even my Scandinavian and all that stuff up far north. They're picking that up. And another thing that's cool is that they've actually have labeled my Iberian as Spanish. Whereas before, a lot of times companies will just call it Iberian, and it's like I guess a mix between Portuguese and Spanish, and that's just what they labeled it. They didn't actually come out and say, okay, this is straight up Spanish. But now they've labeled it as Spanish, and so that's interesting. I'm glad that they were able to zone in and isolate it. But like I said, all the percentages have changed pretty much. Not anything too bad. It's kind of interesting, which I will show you like on the map when I look into it. So it's interesting that they're able to kind of dive just a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper each time that they do an update, and I'm liking it. I'm really liking this company. I think they're doing a lot better job than some of these major companies like Ancestry DNA and 23andMe and MyHeritage. Although MyHeritage has improved, uh, but not not that great. Um, but yeah, so anyway, so let's dive into the the new features. See you over there. Okay, all right, now when I go to my CRI Genetics page, this is what the dashboard looks like. And of course, excuse me, you can scroll on down and look at some of this stuff that, some topics and things that they're talking about. Okay. And then what you do is, for me, which that now I also want to mention that they've got a new feature where they can link you up with matches, family matches, or shall I say other DNA matches. Of course, you have to pay for it, but it's a new feature that they've added. They did not have this before. And I think, quite a few people have been requesting this, so I guess they've added it. But here are the prices. You can buy one report credit, and they'll, I guess, open it up, I believe, with that, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, you've got these other ones to where you can open up more features. And you can get like 1 year all access, basically a subscription. You can do that. So anyway, so that's what it says when you click on that. And one day in the near future, I would like to open that up, and see if there's other people who've taken this test who are my cousins, and which I'm sure there are, with so many people, with so many cousins walking around on this planet. I'm sure I've got quite a few cousin matches who have taken this test. So anyway, all right. And also they have these other things which I'm not too crazy about these types of things, even though, I mean, it's interesting, especially if it's free. It's something you can look at. But most of it is locked down. There's just a few things that are free. Like, for instance, on this one, everything's locked down. All the features, they're all locked down on it. And with this one, yeah, they're all locked down with it too. Let's see. Same thing with that. Let's see. All right. Now, when you click on the taste thing, it will give you a few free things that you can click on, and it will tell you whether or not you, like, say, for instance, bitter taste, and it's saying that I have a high sensitivity to bitter taste, so I can really taste bitter. And this is very true, because yes, if something's bitter, buddy, I can taste it. And then with sweet tooth, at first I thought it said that I had I guess I had just glanced at it or whatever real quick and got distracted or whatever, and I thought it said that I had a sweet tooth, because I do have a sweet tooth. Like, I love my sweets. But it says that I have a low likelihood for having a sweet tooth. And of course, they get this information from taking surveys from other people who, who take the survey, and they will link you up. They'll get a category of people that are kin to each other, and they'll say, well, over a certain amount of people are saying that this is so, therefore, that's how we're going to label it, since the majority of people who have this DNA feel this way, or at least for the most part. Now, some things I'm sure they get from your actual DNA thing itself, like the strand, and they
they have probably done things in the past where they have, you know, did like surveys or whatever, and found out that people with certain markers, genetic markers and stuff, uh, feel this way, basically. If that makes any sense. So it can be anything from that all the way up to just recently doing surveys and stuff. So you just don't never know. But they did link it to a DNA marker as for whether or not you have that or not. Okay. Let's see, where was it at? Was it unique traits? They even have things like photosensitivity, asparagus smell, and all that. And they got me labeled as being really sensitive to light, and so much so to where I could probably sneeze. Like if I suddenly get, like, you know, a blast of light in my eyes, that it could cause me to sneeze. So that, you know, that's interesting. And I have seen that before in other DNA tests that I've taken. They have mentioned that. And where else was it? Nutrition. It's in here somewhere. Let me see. Okay, red hair. Let me go to this. Okay, this is something that is interesting, and this is also showed up in other tests. I have taken other DNA tests where it says that I'm not redheaded, but I am redheaded. I have red hair, I have red body hair, eyelashes, everything. But according to them, I don't have red hair. I could be a carrier, supposedly, but basically, I'm prone to have either brown or black or blonde hair, because those are dominant genes. For those that don't know, brown, black, and blonde dominate red. You have to have two recessive genes to be considered technically a redhead. Well, apparently, even though I may have one of those recessive genes, I don't have both. So I feel like I have a variant of brown that looks red. Like, by all accounts, like when you look at it, like when I look at my hair, it's red. It's not a bright red. It's not, you know, what you would think of, like when people normally think of redheads, they think of a more of, I guess, a brighter red. Mine is more in the auburn type family. And so I find that interesting. I wish they would do more research on this, because I think that they will, which I'm sure they have. I'm sure somebody's doing it somewhere. But it would be neat to have more information come out about how, you know, even in the brown family, you can have red hair. That there could be like certain interesting mutations to the brown gene that will give you red hair, or even other types of hair colors that people may not know about or whatever. It's just interesting that, you know, that genetically I'm not redheaded, but yet I am. So yeah, that's interesting, and this definitely has showed up in other DNA tests. So they're all telling me the same thing, but it's just I don't know, weird, I guess, for me, because there's quite a few people in my family who are also redheaded, who also have a similar tint to their hair that I do, and so they probably just have this brown hair color themselves that is a mutated red gene, or a mutation of the red color, even though it is a brown gene. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, I can get a little long-winded. But so, you know, those are things that I did find a little bit interesting. They've even got things that all the way down to hair form, whether or not I guess you're predestined to have twins, blonde hair, wrist pain, um, muscle fiber size, and tendency to shiver when cold, which I thought pretty much most people do shiver when they're cold. But I guess it's probably a degree. There may be some people out there that don't. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so I mean, there's some pretty interesting features here, but I don't know. I think I've got like 3 points, so maybe I might be able to unlock one or two or three of these, depending. Let me see if there's anything that is interesting enough. Maybe let me see if I have enough credits to open that. Let's see here. Come on. All right. I've got 3 credits. Unlock for 1 credit. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can unlock it. See if it'll let me. Yeah, it unlocked. Okay, cool. Okay, your DNA shows you are more likely to have fraternal twins. Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay, let's move on down here to see about how many customers. Most of the people who have taken a DNA test with this company, 63.15% are likely to have fraternal twins, and 20.01% are less likely to have fraternal twins, and 16.84% have inconclusive results. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Although I don't plan on having any more children, but if I ever did, which that gap is closing very quickly, I guess that would be interesting to know. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. Let me go ahead and do the blonde hair thing. Why not? If it'll let me. Let's see here. Okay, unlock it. All right. Oh, less likely to have blonde hair. So I guess definitely even though my mom is blonde-headed, but her father was kind of a strawberry-ish color hair, and her mother was blonde-headed. But definitely I'm not likely to have blonde hair. Even though my daughter ended up with blonde hair. So I guess I probably can just pass it on, I reckon. I don't know. So yeah, most people are less likely to have blonde hair who have taken this DNA test, and then 17.08% are more likely to have blonde hair, and then the other one is inconclusive. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so I'll save my other credit for later for some other feature that I might find interesting, but for the most part, I mean, this is just, I guess, what you would say just for fun stuff, and I wouldn't really want to, me personally, I don't want to spend much money or anything on it, but other people may be totally fascinated with this, and I don't knock them one bit for, getting enthralled in that. It's just, everybody's got their own taste. But anyway, so let's dive into the ancestry part, okay? All right, and so now, as you can see, this is what it shows you. So let's go ahead and click on the recent analysis, okay? And of course, it shows you a map when you click on it, okay? And according to them, now this is the modern stuff. This is the stuff that, this is not the smaller DNA pieces. This is the bigger DNA pieces that are over a certain size. I would say maybe 8 centimorgans or above. This is what it's showing. So it's not showing me that, on this particular modern thing, it's not showing the ancient stuff. So this is what's on the surface, okay? So the modern part of me is German at 37.4%. Okay. And then the British Isle at 16.5%. I'm 14% Italian and 9.6% Southern Central Slavic. So see, that's what was interesting. And then I'm 8.5% French, and I'm 8.3% Scandinavian, and I'm 5.7% Spanish. Okay, so this is not the little smaller pieces of all these things that are in me. These are just the larger strands of DNA. Okay. All right, and so right here, when I click on this, it takes me to the map and it shows me where this Slavic is coming from. And like I said, I did other DNA tests, and some of them showed up as me having Greek. And there's just been a few other things also within these regions that, like I said, that have showed up in other DNA tests that have been called different things under different labels and all that. So it's just interesting to see where it has got me, my ancestors, as coming from in the like in Bulgaria and all that. So yeah, again, this is something that I believe is new, because I don't recall. I'll have to go back and look at the other videos that I've made about this company, but I don't think I recall seeing it mentioning the Slavic. That's why it kind of stood out to me. I could be wrong, but I don't recall seeing it. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay. All right. So then when I go to the advanced analysis, where it looks at all, not all, but a majority of my DNA, including the smaller pieces, this is what I am. Okay, let me move on down here. Okay, so according to it, I am 91.60% European, okay, and which includes these regions like Northern Europe, okay, which is up here near Finland and all that. And of course, that is definitely showed up in other DNA tests. It's a pretty dominant thing in me, so yeah. All right, then Northwest Europe, the same thing, the British and all that stuff. I have quite a bit of it, so there it is. Okay, and well, the British Isle. So yeah. And then, of course, the Iberian, again, now it's labeled it definitely as Spanish. Okay. Instead of just labeling it as an admixture between Spanish and Portuguese, it's actually saying that it's Spanish, and it's pretty much in the middle of Spain. So that's pretty cool. Okay. All right, and then the rest of this is Italian. I have quite a bit of Italian. It doesn't show because I'm redheaded and fair-skinned with freckles everywhere, but apparently I have quite a bit of Italian. Okay, so there's that. All right, and now for my South Asian, which has to do with my Gujarati Indian. Okay. Oops. All right, and then Punjabi. Okay, and then Bengali, which is over here, this region. Okay. Let's see, go in here. Okay, and then Sri Lankan Tamil. Okay, so this is pretty cool. Okay, and I'm 4% total according to them. Okay, and I'm 3% total Native American according to them. And this is in regards to Colombian. Okay, and these are ancestors that came up from these regions into America and sailed here long before we had any issues with people, crossing the border or whatever. This is not modern South American and Middle American and all that. This is ancient people that come from these regions that moved up into the Americas. Okay. So I have DNA from that, from Colombian, and then Puerto Rican, and then Mexican. Okay. Oops. And then Peruvian. Okay. So it's pretty interesting to me that these people traveled all the way back when, before there was any borders or anything like that, uh, and did all that traveling, and they became American. They, North American, basically, and started all off, and then come people from Europe, and there you have it. So I mean, this is all pretty interesting. Um, so let's see here. All right, and now for my East Asian. Okay, so I have a total of 1.2 now. I mean, that's their current prediction. I have 1.2% East Asian. Okay. All right, so they've got me as Chinese Day. Okay. Japanese. Okay. Southern Han Chinese. Okay. And Kent Vietnamese. So that's pretty cool. So again, I don't know for sure at what point these people became my ancestors. I don't know what timeline, because I mean, I don't know if, let me see if I can explain this. I don't know if this is mixed in with my Native American, or if this is separate. If this is something that happened either way before that point or after that point. So I don't know. I just know that it's there. And that's one thing that's not on the advanced timeline, which I'm fixing to show you. Other than it does show a very ancient Chinese person. I have their DNA. And I have showed that before in my previous videos about this. So I do know that definitely at that point that person existed, and I carry this from way back then, which is so amazing that I have, hung on, that my other ancestors through the years have passed this on down to me. It's just mind blowing that, how that can happen, how we can pass down tiny pieces of DNA for thousands of years on down to other people, that it survives, that it makes it. It's just, it's totally mind blowing. But I do wish that they would have been able to have picked up on their advanced timeline other people, all the different admixtures and stuff. It would have been nice to know at what point they came into my timeline. But I'm still happy with what they are showing. For instance, they've got the Northern Europe as popping in my timeline at between 1870 and 1930. So there was someone from the far northern part of Europe, probably from Scandinavia or something like that, that married or created an offspring to pass this on down to me. So it's like a pretty recent person that I believe to be like 100% of that. So that's interesting. As well as the Gujarati Indian, there was someone between that time frame also who entered into my family tree that gave me this DNA. Okay, and they're saying this with like 99%. So that's pretty sure right there. I have found an ancestor that was pretty close to this timeline, and so I did find that interesting, and I'm happy for finally finding that. I believe it to be true. I could be wrong, and if I am, hopefully I will find out better. I will find, who it really is. But as of right now, I do have someone um, that I believe this to be. So that, to me, that lines up, and it is fascinating. Also, with the Toscani Italian, someone with maybe just a little bit earlier of a timeline entering into my family tree. Um, and then, of course, the British, someone also within that time frame popping in. Of course, I've got a lot of British ancestors. I've documented them, in my family tree, so that's not anything surprising. Northwestern Europe, an ancestor within the same time frame, and then there's another South Asian ancestor, possibly an ancestor to this person, maybe, that popped in, or they could have popped in another area, another line in my family tree. And if I had to guess, as I've said before, I think maybe these two people married each other and had a child that got into my family tree. So I'm glad that they were able to pick that up. But I mean, that's just my guess. Okay, same thing with the North Europe and Italian and all that. I won't bore you with all of this, but it is very interesting to see where all these people are popping in and how a lot of it is lining up with my family tree. Although there's a lot of it that I don't know. So like this person, I mean, this is on further back, so I don't know. And pretty much my family tree starts and ends on the South Asian side with, I believe, this first person right here. Like, I don't know who their real parents were. I just know who their so-called adopted parents, which, even though at that time adoption wasn't really legally adoption, it's just people would take you and raise you, and but nowadays we would call it like adopted or whatever. But it kind of stops with this person, so I don't know the names of this person's true ancestors. So one day maybe I will find out, I hope. But anyway, so let's go on down. Okay, and I also have a Japanese person who's 10 generations back between 1720 and 1780. I don't know who this person is. I have not found them in my family tree. And again, I don't know if this is somehow tied into my Native American. I have suspicions in regards to one Native American ancestor, but it's not been proven. And it has to do with like the Polynesian thing, about maybe their ancestry coming from those islands that eventually lead up to Japan and all that out in the ocean, because it is reported that the Japanese bred with people from those Polynesian islands and all that, and that some of them carry the DNA from that. So I don't know if it could possibly have come from that, or if this person just straight up somehow came into my family tree without going through that route, if that, so let's see, let's go on down. Okay, let's keep going. A lot of this has, it has to do with the British and Northern Europe and all that. That's where a lot of my ancestors are from. Okay, and then at the very end, this is so fascinating to me. I have DNA from a Chinese day person from 76 generations back. Okay, and that was between 70 AD and 130 AD. So that is like, whoo, way on back. So that just blows my mind, that we can do that we have pieces of our ancestors from way long ago that they can pinpoint. So wow. Um, so that, and they're saying this with 99% accuracy. The one thing that I kind of wish they would do is create another timeline, and have it to where, uh, even if they're, say, 79 on down to maybe even 25% sure, that they could put ancestors on that timeline. I think that would be kind of interesting to know. I mean, as long as they make it clear that, hey, we're not 100% sure about this, we're not even, such and such percent sure. But according to our calculations at this time, this is a possibility. And that way they won't be liable for anybody saying, well, that's not true. That's not in my ancestry. I've done my family tree and we've lived here for years and we don't have anything like that. And I family tree, that way they can't have people skulking like that and then trying to make a big deal about it. They can just say, look, we're only this percent sure, so, but according as they have it right now on the timeline, they have to be 80% sure or stronger in order for them to put it in your timeline. But like I said, I would like to see it to where even if they're 79 on down to maybe 25, I would love to see what would actually pop up and at what time frames they would have these people at, because it would help me learn a little bit more. I mean, I would just love it. I would love to be able to say, okay, that's where this ancestor might have came in. Okay. And I think it would just help. It would help a lot of people with their family trees and stuff. So if anybody from this company is looking and happen to spot this video, please take this into consideration, and I would love it if you guys would do this. I think it would just be a very helpful tool. But anyway, okay, now moving on. Okay, they also have a feature, and I believe I've discussed this before in my other videos, where they can go through your haplogroups. For instance, my mom's haplogroup, because they don't have my father. My father is deceased, and although I think I know what his haplogroup is, because of cousins who come from the Bassam side of my family who have taken DNA tests, the males, I have seen what some of their haplogroups are, and I believe I do know what his is. And so, that's helpful to me. But as far as these companies are concerned, it's, they only have my mother's haplogroup. Okay. Because they can get that from me. Whereas, since I'm a female, they can't get my father's haplogroup from me. I would have to be a male for them to be able to do that. Okay. But anyway, so according to them, and like news outlets and media and shows and stuff, this Otzi Iceman that was found up, I believe it was between northern Italy and some other place. Anyway, there was like a mountain region, and they found his body because he had been frozen for a long time, and they were able to, one day I think a hiker or somebody discovered his body, and they were able to get his DNA and all that stuff. Okay, he comes from a little bit higher up on the, I believe it. Way a distant kinship, kind of, at least on the haplogroup side to me. Okay. All right. And then according to them, Mike Nichols is within this range of haplogroups. So that would make him, somewhat maybe kin. Same thing with Craig Vetter. He's a biochemist. And see, this other guy, Mike Nichols, he's a writer, producer, and comedian. Okay. Then Meryl Streep. Okay. So she has the same haplogroup as I do. Same thing with Katie Couric. Okay. And then Stephen, I call him Colbert, even though people pronounce it Colbert. But actually, in my area, they call this last name Colbert. And I believe I'm kin to him in two ways. One way through, my mother's side and haplogroup and all that stuff. But also on my father's side, because I'm kin to the Colbert Native Americans of my region. And they, mixed in with white people with the Colbert name. And he is also, I did when I was doing my family tree, I went way on back and found out that his group, they didn't come here at that time, even though they're kin, but his ancestors were up in a northern region. I'm not sure exactly where, but anyway, so he come from that, but still it's from the Colbert line. So he is like a distant relative. Okay. Then there's Harry Connick Jr. Okay. Then of course Maggie Gyllenhaal, an actress, as well as her brother Jake Gyllenhaal. Okay, I'm also kin to Richard III, which I have. I do have royal DNA, which a lot of people do, from the British monarch. But this is through my mother's line, and would also be his mother's line. So through his female side and my female side, we're kin. And I am kin to the royal family from both my mother and my father's side, as well as the Spencers. I'm kin to Diana Spencer as well, especially on my mother's side. But the regular British royal family on both sides. So that's interesting. And then Najib Halliday, I reckon he was an American businessman and government official. Let's see, he was born in Lebanese to a Lebanese Syrian father and a Texan mother. Okay, and then Larry Bird, I'm kin to him on my mother's side, and I don't know how close. Again, this could just be way on distant, way on down because of the haplogroup, or, it could be closer. I don't know. I haven't really checked him out yet or anything. So, but anyway, so that's what it says as far as this goes. And like I said, I've already showed this before in my other videos, I believe. So, it is pretty interesting. Okay, so that's pretty much what it has, because this is locked and that is locked, because this would probably tell you more about your haplogroup. I don't think I can unlock it with my one thing that's left. I could be wrong. I will check and see. 1 credit available. Oh, I would have to have 5 credits to unlock this. So I'll just wait maybe later on down, which even though I already know because of 23andMe and some other DNA sites, I have already found out what it's called. So I really don't need that trait or that to be unlocked necessarily. But anyway, so this is pretty much what you get when you do the DNA test with this company. And I really think that you get your money's worth. I think that it's worth it. It's a lot better than 23andMe and Ancestry DNA, as far as my opinion is. Now, other people may disagree, but I really do feel like it's really good. The only thing is I don't see an actual tree thing where you can fill out any kind of free tree. or anything like that on here. And they may add that later on. I don't know. I don't, don't know what they have in the works. But I do think that them adding the relative thing on here is pretty cool. That that being a new feature. Um, so yeah, but I did want to, since I noticed that it had changed a little bit, I did want to uh, update you guys with what I found, and I hope this video wasn't too boring or too long-winded, and that you got something out of it. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. Bye.